Hello everyone. Thanks for joining us today for the Nest product reveal. I am Rachel Martin.
And I'm Cecile McPeak.
And we're from Just Another Button Company. We are broadcasting live here from our studio/office where we make all the buttons and create all the projects for Button Lovers Club. So we would like to welcome you. Be sure to put a comment to let us know that you're here and ask us any questions that you have along the way. We're going to show you the projects and we're going to answer your questions about how we made them, and we're going to show you all of the resources that you're going to need in order to make the projects yourself.
Have you been a subscriber to Button Lovers Club 2 for a while now? We hope you're going to say yes to that, and if not, welcome, and here's your chance to sign up for something new. If you've signed up for Button Lovers Club 2, you are receiving or have already received your last box from that series, so it's time to go back on the internet and go to our website and sign up for Button Lovers Club 3. It's a completely different sign up,
Right.
but still just as easy. And this subscription does not expire after 12 months. It's ongoing because it's based on brand new fabric lines, and there's always going to be brand new fabric lines that we can't wait to create something beautiful with.
That's right.
You sign up, it does not end after 12 months, but if you change your mind, if you want to do something different, you could cancel anytime that you want to.
Right, and this club is not called Button Lovers Club 3, it's called Button Lovers Club Words with Buttons, and there's a special reason for that. This year, when we decided to restart the Button Lovers Club, we chose a theme for it, and that is Words with Buttons. And it's because we got these new alphabet buttons that we're hand dyeing, and we are going to pick a word to go with each fabric collection, and it's going to inspire the buttons that are in the box and coordinate with the fabric. So the first word for this first collection of buttons with Words with Buttons is nest. And we're going to switch to our top view camera so you can see N-E-S-T. Aren't these adorable? We are so excited about having these alphabet buttons, and we'll talk more about them on social media soon about how they'll be available in different forms. But for right now, they're only available in the club, and we're going to do a word every month, so you'll be able to spell nest in your Button Lovers Club projects. So each word will be different, and they'll always be a different color too, because this month we decided to go with this really pretty light blue color because it coordinates really nice with this nest fabric. But next month it might be a different color, so you'll have to wait and see. And we'll be announcing the word a little bit ahead of time, so you'll know what fabric collection will be next month and which word will be next month too.
So why don't you tell them some more about the fabric?
Okay, so this fabric is called Nest, and it is designed by Lella Boutique for Moda Fabrics, and as I understand, it's selling really hot right now. So if you're getting a Words with Buttons box this month, you want to hurry up and buy some of this Nest fabric. If you want to know about how much to buy, if you're only using it for our projects, I would suggest a layer cake. That's what I was working with when I designed the projects, and I had enough to do all of the projects that I made with a little bit extra, as you can see, so you'll be able to use it for other projects as well. But if you have other plans for the Nest fabric, then go ahead and buy a fat quarter bundle because it is gorgeous fabric. But if you're doing it just for Button Lovers Club, a layer cake is plenty.
Okay, so since we're here to talk about Button Lovers Club,
this is a Button Lovers Club box. I don't know if you have been signed up before, but if you haven't, this is what your pretty package looks like every month. It's all wrapped up in our custom button tape. It's so much fun to receive. And I think that we have a box cutter on hand so we can open this up and show you what is inside. All right, are you ready?
where are you going?
I'm gonna go right here in the front. Are we ready?
Go
Okay.
back a little bit.
See if I can get this open. Oh, there we go. Okay, this is what the pretty package looks like. So, right here on the inside of the label, you'll see that we list the project sources, like the fabric we just talked about, plus these 2 patterns that we'll talk about in a little bit. And here are your button packages. This is the alphabet pack. It's got your alphabet buttons to spell your word, and it has some super special handmade buttons, handmade by us right here in this building, and 2 hand-dyed party packs. These buttons we call party mix because it's a button party in a bag. There's all kinds of shapes and sizes and finishes. And if you hear that little voice in the background, that's my little Anna. She's homesick from school today, so she came to the office with us. So you might hear her, and you might hear my baby boy Elliot. He's here at the office every day, and he makes some sweet sounds in the background. These 2 packages, like I said, are hand dyed, and they coordinate really well with the fabrics. So we're really excited to show you how these packs of buttons will coordinate with the projects that we designed. So, are you ready to see the projects? Do we have any questions so far?
No questions so far.
So let's start talking about the projects. So if you are familiar with the Splendid Sampler book, are we up on the top view camera or are we up here? Okay, so this is the Splendid Sampler by Pat Sloan and Jane Davidson. And we are excited to feature a new block each month with our Button Lovers Club Words with Buttons. We this month made the center block. It was designed by Kate Spain, and we made it out of the Nest fabrics and then finished it into a pillow and tufted it with buttons. So each month we're going to feature a different block from the Splendid Sampler book. So I highly recommend that you get one of these books because it's an awesome resource for 6-inch blocks.
Right.
It's so much fun to make the different blocks.
Right, and you may already have it and be making the Splendid Sampler quilt too, but we should point out that this is Splendid Sampler 1 because Splendid Sampler 2 has just been announced.
It's been announced, yes. It's not out yet, so we're still using Splendid Sampler 1, which is still an awesome book.
And it's available in stores.
And it's available in stores or online, yes. So this is the center block. And on the blog next week we're going to be releasing instructions on how we took the quilt block and made it into a pillow. So there'll be instructions about how we fused the quilt block to some dreamy fusible fleece from So Lazy. This stuff is really good. We fused it to there and then quilted it and turned it into a pillow. So I'll be talking about that on the blog next week. So that's the center pillow. And then would you like to talk about the monogram pillow?
Okay.
We'll have links for all of those things in the blog too.
Yes,
I'm going to add them to the comments here, but we'll add them to the blog as well.
Right.
Okay, that's Tammy you hear talking in the background.
She's saying there's going to be links available for all the blog posts and everything, and you're going to put those in the
For
comments.
the supplies, yes.
In the comments, and links for the supplies as well, yes.
Okay, so this is the N is for Nest pillow. Every month we will choose an alphabet letter and show you how to do what we call button applique. And Tammy has created this great pattern. It's a PDF download available on her website, and we give you links for that too. She called it Button Block 4-inch Applique Alphabet, and you're going to use this for lots of things, lots of projects. She shows wool projects on the front here, button embellished, of course. And inside is a full-size alphabet that you can trace and use for any kind of applique, no matter what your favorite is. So we chose the N and traced it onto some of the beautiful Lola Boutique Nest fabric and cut it out, fused it onto this simple block, and added the button applique on top. In a little bit we're going to talk some more about button applique because we also use button applique on this one. This is the little bird shape. The bird pattern will be available on our blog. And look how we've done the button applique and added these two little handmade buttons as well on top, and it's a great way to use the nest buttons that you get in your box.
Why don't you put that in the front and we'll show a top view of that so they can see
Okay.
it up close. A little further back.
This right here?
Yep, right there. you
Okay.
go.
So you can see that we used your lake buttons to do this, and for nest, right, I have to figure out what's right side up for you.
That's right.
There's that, and we use the Peachy Keen buttons, and you're going to have lots so you can make extras if you want to give some away. And the little nest button is found in your we call this the words package, where you get NEST and a bunch of the polymer clay buttons that are handmade by us to fill out the set, add some extra embellishments. You can use one, you can use two, you can use a bunch. Okay, Rachel, what's next?
Okay, so let's.
Why don't you come back on camera?
Oh, okay.
She's got Elliot now, but that's okay because he's dressed in coordinating colors.
Yes.
Imagine that. Rachel's child dressed in coordinating colors.
This is Elliot. We call him Button Buddy here at the office. My daughters are Miss Button 1 and Miss Button 2, and Elliot's Button Buddy. So he'll occasionally make an appearance. I would like to talk about the decorative stitching that Mom did on this nest button. This is a handmade button that's in the pack. Sorry, we'll put it right here. And she did some really cool decorative stitching on top to embellish that. Mom, would you talk about how you did that?
Right. When I made this pillow right here, I sewed the nest button on, but I wasn't really happy because it kept moving from side to side, and it occurred to me suddenly, once late at night, that's usually when I get these kind of ideas, that I wanted to come in and try sewing on a button just through the two button holes, and then I loaded up my needle with some silky embroidery floss, and it just made some long stitches over the nest in kind of a haphazard way. There's no planning there, just to make it look like those fuzzy twigs that stick out of the nest. You know, it's not always perfectly neat and there's little twigs sticking out. Now, wouldn't that be cool too, to stitch over top? It holds the nest in place and it adds that little bit of extra dimension.
Right.
Okay, do you want me to talk some more about the button applique?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So when we were trying to decide, is the end right side up for you, Tammy?
Yes, but
Okay.
come down a little
When
bit.
we were talking about when we were talking about putting the N on here, we worked out that there's some good fabric choices. All of these fabrics are beautiful. When we say good fabric choices, we just mean things that work well for the applique with the buttons on top of it. We tried this one first because we really love that pattern, but we discovered, Tammy, could you hand me that basket over there, please? Oh, look at this. This is one of my favorite go-to containers, made with the nest fabric, of course. This is a button boat by Lazy Girl Designs. And we'll give you a link for that too. But I want to put out some buttons here to draw from. Have to do it in a decorative way. Okay, so this is what comes in your Peachy Keen package. Now if I just randomly took some of these and put these on here, I thought that the high contrast between the peach and the white there kind of interfered with my button applique. And I had the same feeling, even though I really loved this one with the flowers on it. It's the same thing. You can't see the benefit. I mean, this is beautiful fabric, but you kind of lose all that great pattern on there, and it makes the button applique just a little bit less attractive because you're trying to figure out what in the world is behind it. So we went for what we call low contrast, and we chose this fabric right here to be the N, because when you put the buttons on there, look how the colors look great. They provide a great outline for the button shapes so that you don't have to fill right to the edge. This feels like it's completely covered, but not obsessively. I mean, you don't have to think, oh my goodness, I can't get just that one more in there. I should have moved that one over, or I have to sew that one on its side. You don't need to do that because this feels filled because the fabric creates that illusion. So that's how we chose this fabric right here. Now, we also did the button applique on the bird shape. And remember I said that we were going to give you that bird shape on our blog. Here's your link, party pack. Every month when we decide which color packs that you're going to get in your box, we choose based on the fabric so that you can have lots of fun picking which ones. You don't need to use the same fabrics that we use. Okay, let's see. The stripe, yeah, that might work because there's not a lot of contrast on there. And then we tried this one and we tried this one. But you know what we ended up doing? We ended up going with a solid fabric from the, Rachel's in it called the Bella Solids line.
Yes.
From Moda.
And we actually shared good basics on our.
We shared the basics on the Button Lovers Club. Okay, so this one's a little raggy because we actually use our fabrics. Okay, so that turned out to be the perfect choice for the bird. But like I said, you don't have to use the same ones we used. We're hoping that you're going to post pictures of what you did, and hopefully we'll see some really good variations on that. Okay, now I figured out a few really fun things to make applique and applique auditioning super easy. Okay, so when you're looking at these pieces of fabric right here, is this the right spot, Tammy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are they seeing just the fabric, or are they seeing me too?
No, they're not seeing you.
Okay, well good, that makes it easier. I don't have to keep looking up. Okay, so I went to the Button Black applique alphabet pattern, and I traced an N on just a regular piece of paper, and I cut it out because that's my little window now to audition my fabrics. Is this right side up for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I can see if I cut that N out of this, that's what it's going to look like on the pillow. If I cut that N out of this, that's what it's going to look like. And if I'm trying to decide, okay, here's one of the things that we decided was not the route we were going to take. What if we really like this green fabric and we want to see what it looks like with the peachy colored buttons on top of it? Well, without going to the trouble of cutting the N, you can see right now what the peachy colored buttons look like on that N. We decided that in order to get that, well, this looks full without being obsessive about going to every single corner, you don't get that if you go with the contrast fabric. Okay, so now let's go to this fabric. That's the one we chose. Okay, so let's say that you also have settled on you're going to use that fabric for your applique. Here's what I like to do. I like to take 3, maybe 4 of the largest buttons in the package. You have several different shapes, several different shades to choose from. And just place them on there. And I don't like them to be evenly spaced. I'm not a symmetric person. But that doesn't mean you couldn't if you wanted to, because there's certainly enough choices. We chose buttons, actually, Tammy designed the alphabet to fit the button sizes that we chose. Look how you can just sort of fill in inside there and audition where you're going to put those buttons. Don't think about it too hard. You're going to find the medium-sized ones are just right for what I'm going to call the stems of the letters. These are a little bit smaller, but that's because it's more interesting if they're not just lined up like soldiers standing at attention. Okay, see, that's not my favorite. I like putting some to one side, some to another. And when I'm putting them on there, I try to leave room in between for, like, I don't want to put this one right here because that splits the difference on those two sides. But if I leave that much room there, then there's just enough room for that one right there. So I have a lot of fun doing this. All right, can you see how there's so much dimension here? Look at those buttons, they're sewn on top. All right, so what if I decide that I'm really happy with this? Well, almost really happy, because this is a darker one, and I tend not to put the darkest ones right at the ends. Okay, so this is a pleasing overall design to me, and it doesn't look full enough. It doesn't look like this, but at this point I can create my applique on the pillow and then just pick these up one at a time and start sewing them to the pillow, just picking them up in a row, moving it over here, sewing that one down, just doing the next one.
Take a picture.
Or I can take a picture with my phone and then just leave the picture open in front of me. Now, after I get these all sewn on there, I'm going to go back and I'm going to add a second layer. The big buttons are great in a second layer. Suppose I put one right there. The only trick with these is that you want to be able to sew in spaces between. That's another good reason to leave some spaces in between. So what if I put that one there, and make sure you choose your very favorite buttons to put on top. And you don't have to have a lot. I like to go with odd numbers. So I tend to do maybe 5 in my second row. And I tend to use the ones with the fancier shapes. Look how that's already changed it, made it look more dimensional like this one. And then don't forget that you also have the polymer clay buttons that you can add in there. You can use the nest, or maybe there's another one that you really like. All right, so I want to be sure not to overdo it. But these buttons weigh hardly anything, so even with all those buttons on there, it still is very lightweight. Okay, so that's my favorite way. If I want to, I can put all of the layers on there and I can photograph that, and then maybe just take off the top layers and move them over to the side, like I can move. And this goes at the end of the end, and that goes next to it, and then I have this one down here, and that one right there, and that one right there. Okay. So now I remember where I had these arranged, and then I can move these over onto my pillow and sew them on. Now, what are the tricks for sewing onto a pillow? The first thing that we want to talk about is how when we assemble the pillow, this one is just a plain square with some border strips sewn onto it and sewn onto a back. And we have this really quick way for putting this together, and that's going to be on our blog also. We call this a Frankenstein finish. Can you see? Tammy, where's a good place for them to see this up close?
Bring it a little further forward. Oh, that's too close. We're novice sewers.
Down?
No, just leave it where it is. She's
Okay.
zooming.
Okay. And you see those stitches right along there?
Yes.
Okay. All right, you can see why we call it the Frankenstein finish.
We'll take a picture of that and post it in
Okay,
the group too.
we'll post a still photo of that separately also. Okay,
Because it is
so
hard to see on the.
when you're making a pillow, the traditional way to do it is you make your top. We don't sew the buttons on yet. You cut your square for the back, and you lay them right sides together, and you stitch all the way around, except you have to leave an opening for turning. Well, that is my least favorite part of making a little pillow, is that opening for turning, because then you have to, all right, which edge am I going to put it on, because my stitches, I don't want them to show. And some people are experts at doing that little ladder stitch right there so that it doesn't really show, but you do have to have that place to add the stuffing, and then you do have to finish it off neatly. But what if you sewed all the way around, all 4 sides? Okay, it seems like there's no place to put the stuffing in, right? So flip it over, and this is going to be the wrong side of the fabric at this point, and cut a slit like this in your backing. Now, if you cut a slit over here, then you're all set if you want to sew a button in the middle for tufting. But on this one, we're not going to tuft, so put it on the back like that. It's about this long. That gives you plenty of room to add your stuffing. If you cut it on the diagonal, on the bias, then you don't have trouble with fraying. All right, so now stuff into the corners. Well, first you have to turn it right side out, obviously, and poke your corners out. And then you stuff, starting with the corners. We like wool roving. That's our favorite. We have a link for that on our blog if you need wool roving, but you can use other things too. Lots of people prefer the polyester fiber fill. Okay, so you get it all stuffed. You like how squishy it is. Now you have two choices. You can either, at this point, add the buttons, which means that you can stick your fingers inside there to help manipulate the fabric as you sew the buttons on, or I actually went ahead and finished this off before I sewed the buttons on. So whichever one works for you, you can try it both ways. Rachel, would you hand me that piece right there? All right, so we chose a contrasting color from this same Nest fabric line and put some fusible. Rachel, what's the fusible, please? It's also from So Lazy.
Fusy Bond Light.
So Lazy Fusy Bond Light. We put it on the back, cut out a very simple heart shape. We just did a freehand shape. It just needs to be larger than the dimensions of your Frankenstein patch or stitch back there. But we can also give you a pattern for the heart. Okay, so peel off the backing, cover up the Frankenstein scar right there, fuse it in place, and it's done. You might want to make sure you're doing it from the top too, if it makes a difference to you. But that is such a quick and easy finish, and you don't have to worry about along the edge. Nobody's going to look at the back, and if they do, they're going to be so impressed that you finished it off so easily and so cute. And it's a way to use another cute fabric. The more fabrics you use, the better. Okay, so that's the Frankenstein stitch for the finish. Now, how in the world do you sew buttons onto a pillow that's already finished? I need a piece of paper and a pencil. I want to show you something cool. Okay. Oh, here's one more thing to show you first. Here's another good way to audition your buttons. I took my pillow that had been stuffed. Is it in the right spot, Tammy?
Mm-hmm.
That had been stuffed, and it already had the applique shape on there. And you can't see this because I did a little Photoshop magic, but when Rachel sews these pillows, she fuses on this applique and just does a very simple straight stitch. This looks like a hand stitch, but she does it on the machine.
They can't see.
Oh, they can't see that. Okay. So we'll switch to Mark. Sharpie. She just does a straight machine stitch along the edge to hold it down. Okay, now I know I want to put Nest on there right in this spot. In order to do that, I need to make sure that it's not bumping into my applique buttons. I've laid the pillow down on a photocopier, and I can audition just like that. Now this one, I'm not going to be able to put nearly as many big buttons on there. So the trick on this one is to decide what you're going to do with the small spaces. Get my buttons out here. I'm going to need to figure out, do I want something that looks like it's the eye, or is it just going to be a solid space? And then what goes in front of it? I don't think I want an eye, but I definitely want a beak, so I might do that. I'm going to put this one up higher because there's no room for a small space or a smaller button under it. And then I'm going to put that one there. And then fill in. I'm going to use some dark ones. I'm going to use some light ones. I like that one there for the tail. Well, maybe I don't. Maybe I want it to be a flatter one. These buttons are reversible. Okay, I don't want those that look too much alike to be too close together. Okay, look how fast that's filling up.
Keeps freezing up. I'm going to switch cameras for just a second to
Okay.
get that camera reset.
Should I keep going or wait? We're having a camera issue. Tell me if I should keep going. Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay, I think the camera's fixed. All right. Okay. How about that? And all right, so now I could take a photograph of this with my cell phone, so I know that's what I want. my bottom layer to be. I've left room for nest to be right there. And then I can go back and add another layer. Okay. Oh, can't quite reach. All right.
I'm gonna switch cameras for just that other one keeps freezing, so let me leave. There we go. I'm just gonna switch to this other one for just a little bit. Tell that other one.
All right. Should I keep going?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. But I want to be sure and leave room for these two little flower buttons right here. To me, that sort of looks like the wing, and it just, adding that light color right there just makes it that much more interesting. All right, I think I still have room for just a couple more. I think I want it to be a little bit darker. Look how I put these two buttons right here, and that sort of ended up looking like a wing. Maybe I should do that too. If I'm sewing two buttons, one directly on top of the other one, I need to line up the holes. Otherwise, I need to make sure that my holes land in the spaces between. This really is not difficult to do. It's actually fun. And there's no wrong way to do it. Okay, are they looking at me or are they looking at the
At your hands.
At my hands, okay. Okay, so that's how I can plan out how to do my nest pillow. All right, I'm gonna slide that out of the way. I'll slide this out of the way. And I'm gonna go back to talking about, this makes such a nice backdrop. What happened to our N? There it is. That I wanna leave the fabric underneath it, and I'll leave that there. And I'm going to talk about how I sewed those buttons on there. I've been sewing on a lot of buttons. It's never been my favorite thing to do, but I've discovered a trick. Let's say, never draw a circle freehand on live television. Okay, let's say I want to sew that button right there. Now, because no one is ever going to see the back, we're not going to be worried about whether people can see the stitches or not. So I'm going to take my needle and thread. I should have a needle and thread. Hold on one second. All right, this one is a little bit overkill. It gets the point across. I'm going to take, in the fabric, I'm going to take one tiny stitch right there. And let's say that I've already tied a knot right there. So take one tiny stitch right there on the top of my pillow, right where I want to sew that button. And as I pull it through, I'm going to go through the loop right behind the knot. And before I pull it down, I'm going to cut that tail off. It's just 1/8 of an inch, right like that. Okay, and then I'm going to pull it down tight, and that's going to anchor that fabric without that big glob of thread right there. It's going to anchor that fabric, or anchor that thread right where I want the button to be. And then I'm going to take another little tiny stitch there. Now that thread is not going anywhere. It is attached right there where I want to sew. All right, so now I sew, hold the button up in the air, sew up through the button, sew down through the button, still hanging up here in the air. Take another tiny stitch, just a little bit bigger where that first one was, go up through the button again, it's still up in the air, go down through the button again, and now I'm going to take a giant stitch. So my knot was there, there's my little thread tails, and then I took a little tiny stitch beside it. And then I'm going to take a big stitch, like this big, like that, and go up through this button again. And then I'm going to wiggle the threads and pull the button down close. Right, and it's not going to have any knots on top of it because we were so careful to do this neatly. Okay, so that knot will actually be right next to the fabric. You won't be able to see it. So wiggle it down, wiggle it down, wiggle it down. All right, so it's flat against the fabric, nice and tight. Okay, what if it doesn't feel tight enough to you? It shouldn't move around like that. It should be firm. But since you took that great big stitch around there, if it doesn't feel nice and tight, wrap the thread around. catch that really long stitch like that and pull. Oh my gosh, that tightens it down perfectly. And then sew underneath the button like that. Come back out, sew through your loop and pull, and you have knotted it in place and it is perfectly tight against your fabric. So go through and sew down all of the buttons that way. If you've left your Frankenstein stitch open, you can get your hand inside there and put it behind it. Even if you've already closed that up, you can bend the pillow, you can bend the button up. Because you're taking that great big stitch there at the end, you can always tighten it down if you feel like it's not tight enough. Add your first layer, just like you laid it out, and then go back and add the buttons on top, and voila! You have a button applique pillow. Okay, Rachel, what's next?
I think we're pretty much
Can you come over here?
Yeah, let's talk about the Facebook group.
Oh, okay.
So we have a Facebook group for button lovers, and we would like for all of you to join because it's a great way for us to share ideas about how to do these projects and other projects, and then you can share pictures of your finished projects into the group, and it's just a fun way to share with other people who love buttons. So look for us on Facebook. It's a group. It's called Button Lovers Club. Is there a way for us to put a link to the group? Okay, Tammy's
Yes.
putting a link to the group in the comments. So please join us in our group, and there'll be some special announcements made there before they're made, on our Just Another Button Company page. So if you join, you'll get advanced knowledge on certain things, which is pretty exciting.
You're right.
So-
There's one more thing that I think that we should be sure to share about this Words with Buttons subscription. Because we're tying each one of the words to a line of fabrics and choosing the buttons that go with that particular line of fabrics, you can still be a button collector and save your buttons in jars, and you're still going to get a wide variety of buttons. But if you decided that you want to stitch the projects along with us, be sure you order your fabrics, and the boxes will be a limited edition because the fabrics are there, and then there's something else beautiful that comes behind that. So we'll always be turning over and creating a new box. So you want to be sure to order your subscription, and when that box is gone, it's gone. So we just want you to know that ahead of time.
Right, so go ahead and sign up for Button Lovers Club Words with Buttons, and you will be getting a special box in the mail.
Nest. Thanks for joining us
Yes.
at Just Another Button Company.
Thank you so much for joining us live today, and we'll be back next month to show you next month's projects.
Bye.